but watch the little short one that I just did previously to this one to get a little intro, because I'm just going to continue. I'm not going to start over. But this document basically, for me at least, confirms that the Jesuit oath is real. You know, because there's always, at least for me, there's always a measure of not doubt, but I don't ever, or at least I try not to. You know, I'm a human, so I have errors and flaws and stuff like that. But I try my best not to just ever take anything and believe it 100%. So when I read the Jesuit oath, I believed it, but for me, this letter confirms it. So if you haven't read it, please read it. Just look up the extreme Jesuit oath. Just look it up. This letter for me confirms it. It confirms a lot of things. Also, what this letter does for me personally is, you know, it just puts more things into perspective. How we are literally joking around. We're literally wasting time. We're literally not doing anything that oh, that's terrible. We're not doing anything in comparison to this. Like, once you read the Jesuit oath and you compare what these people are willing to do to keep us oppressed, and you look at 90% of Moors teaching Moorish science, you'll see that we're gonna lose. Based on these people's sheer will to keep us oppressed. You know, if we can't keep saying that the universe is mental and the universe is mental and the universe is mental, and then we don't put the same, you know, type of effort in to defend ourselves that people are putting in to keep us oppressed. You know. So anyway, I'm just gonna read it. And this isn't the first letter that this apostle has sent to Donald Trump. This is not the first letter. So as you can see, it's an open letter to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. It was sent Sunday, October 25th, 2020. It says, Mr. President, allow me to address you at this hour in which the fate of the whole world is being threatened by a global conspiracy against God and humanity. I write to you as an archbishop, as a successor of the apostles, as the former apostolic nuncio to the United States of America. I am writing to you in the midst of the silence of both civil and religious authorities, because remember, there's no separation of church and state. May you accept these words of mine in the voice of one crying out in the desert. As I said when I wrote my letter to you in June, this historical moment sees the forces of evil aligned in a battle without quarter against the forces of good. Forces of evil that appear powerful and organized as they oppose the children of light, who are disoriented and disorganized, abandoned by their temporal and spiritual leaders. Now, just to address a degree of that, because there's a degree of that is true as far as the abandonment by their temporal and spiritual leaders, because a lot of our leaders are sellouts. People like Chief Malik, people like Jeff Ford, he was one of our leaders, but due to this global conspiracy and the political arm of the Jesuit oath being the FBI COINTELPRO, Their job is to take our leaders and either murder them or throw them in jail for the rest of their lives. So we're not just dealing with abandonment, we're dealing with an actual war against our people, the Moors, and us being organized, because their job is to keep us disoriented and disorganized, etc. Anyway, daily we sense the attacks multiplying of those who want to destroy the very basis of society, the natural family, respect for human life, love of country, freedom of education and business. We see heads of nations and religious leaders pandering to the suicide of Western culture and its Christian soul, while the fundamental rights of citizens and believers are denied in the name of health emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully as instrumental to the establishment of an inhumane, faceless tyranny. So that's there's actually a lot said in that sentence, but the faceless tyranny would be the quote-unquote shadow government, the deep state, etc., 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 right? The fundamental rights of citizens, we already know everyone's constitutional rights are being violated. The alleged health emergency, they're suspending everything. They stopped people's livelihoods, which is, affecting their entire lives. Yeah. A global plan called the Great Reset is underway. I've only heard Taj Tariq Bey talk about that, as far as anyone who's a Moor. Anyway, whatever. Its architect is the global elite. Is a global elite that wants to subdue all of humanity, imposing coercive measures with which to drastically limit individual freedoms and those of entire populations. In several nations, this plan has already been approved and financed. In others, it is still in an early stage. Behind the world leaders, who are the accomplices and executors of this, of this infernal project, there are unscrupulous characters who finance the World Economic Forum and Event 201 promoting their agenda. Puppets. The purpose of the Great Reset is the imposition of a health dictatorship aiming at the imposition of libertectal measures. I don't know what that word is. I've never seen that word. Liberticidal measures. Never heard that word before. Hidden behind tempting promises of ensuring a universal income and canceling individual debt. The price of these concessions form the International Monetary Fund will be the renunciation of private property and adherence to a program of vaccination against COVID-19 and COVID-21 promoted by Bill Gates with the collaboration of the main pharmaceutical groups. So excuse me for stumbling, I'm reading this through the phone. Beyond the enormous economic interests that motivate the promoters of the Great Reset, the imposition of the vaccination will be accompanied by the requirement of a health passport and a digital ID with the consequent contact tracing of the population of the entire world. Those who do not accept these measures will be confined in detention camps or placed under house arrest with all their assets will be confiscated. So remember that one time there was a guy named Jamal, and he was like, hey, we should have a militia so we can protect ourselves against anyone trying to violate our rights. And then there were a bunch of Moors throwing stones at that guy. Remember that? Oh, okay. Mr. President, I imagine that you are already aware that in some countries, the Great Reset will be activated between the end of this year in the first trimester of 2021. For this purpose, further lockdowns are planned, which will be officially justified by a supposed second and third wave of the pandemic. You are well aware of the means that have been deployed to sow panic and legitimize draconian limitations on individual liberties, artfully provoking a worldwide economic crisis. In the intention of the architects, this crisis will serve to make the recourse of nations to the Great Reset. Will serve to make the recourse of nations to the Great Reset irreversible, thereby giving the final blow to a world whose existence and very memory they want to completely cancel. But this world, Mr. President, includes people, affections, institutions, faith, culture, traditions, and ideals. People, and ideals. People and values that do not act like automatons, who do not obey like machines, because they are endowed with a soul and a heart, because they are tied together by a spiritual bond that draws its strength from above, from that God, that our adversaries want to challenge, just as Lucifer did in the beginning of time with his non-surveillum, So, I mean, I can't really say much. This is pretty well written. I feel like, it's pretty straightforward. There's definitely a lot of historical context that you have to know, but most Moors who study already know them. Right? Many people, as we all know, are annoyed by this reference to the clash between good and evil, exasperates spirits, and sharpens divisions. It is not surprising that the enemy is angered at being discovered just when he believes he has reached the citadel he seeks to conquer undisturbed. What is surprising, however, is that there is no one to sound the alarm. The reaction of the deep state to those who denounce its plan is broken and incoherent, but understandable. Just when the complicity of the mainstream media had succeeded in making the transition of the New World Order almost painless and unnoticed, all sorts of deceptions, scandals, and crimes. Excuse me. Until a few months ago, it was easy to smear as conspiracy theorists those who denounced these terrible plans, which we now see being carried out down to the smallest detail. No one, up until last February, would ever have thought in all of our cities, citizens would be arrested simply for wanting to walk down the street, to breathe, to want to keep their businesses open. All over the world, even in picture postcard Italy, that many Americans consider to be a small, enhanced country with its ancient monuments, its churches, its charming cities, its characteristic villages. And while the politicians are barricaded inside their palaces, promulgating decrees like shops are closing and people are prevented from living, traveling, working, and praying. The disastrous psychological consequences of this operation are already being seen, beginning with the suicides of desperate entrepreneurs and of our children, segregated from friends and classmates, told to follow their classes while sitting at home alone in front of a computer. In sacred scripture, St. Paul speaks to us of the one who opposes the manifestation of the mystery of iniquity. In the religious sphere, this obstacle to the evil is the church, and in particular, the papacy. In the political sphere, it is those who impede the establishment of the New World Order. Excuse me. As is now clear, the one who occupies the chair of Peter has betrayed his role from the very beginning in order to defend and promote the globalist ideology, supporting the agenda of the deep state, of the deep church, who chose him from its ranks. Mr. President, you have clearly stated that you want to defend the nation, one nation under God, fundamental liberties, and non-negotiable values that are denied and fought against today. It is you, dear President, who are the ones who opposes the deep state, the final assault of the children of darkness. For this reason, it is necessary that all people of good will be persuaded of the epochal, I don't know what that word is, of the epochal importance of the imminent election, not so much for the sake of this or that political program, but because of the general inspiration of your action that best embodies, in this particular historical context, that world, our world, which they want to cancel by means of the lockdown. Your adversary is also our adversary. It is the enemy of the human race. He who is a murderer from the beginning. Interesting. Comparison against the world dictatorship. The alternative is to vote for a person who is manipulated by the deep state, gravely comprised by scandals and corruption, who will do to the United States what George Mario Bergoglio is doing to the church. Prime Minister Conte of Italy, President Macron to France, Prime Minister Sanchez to Spain, and so on. The blackmailable nature of Joe Biden, just like that of the prelates of the Vatican's magic circle, will expose him to be used unscrupulously, allowing illegitimate powers to interfere in both domestic politics as well as international balances. It is obvious that those who manipulate him already have someone worse than him ready, with whom they will replace him as soon as the opportunity arises. And yet, in the midst of this bleak picture, this apparently unstoppable advance of the invisible enemy, an element of hope emerges. The adversary does not know how to love, and it does not understand that it is not enough to assure a universal income or to cancel mortgages in order to subjugate the masses and convince them to be branded like cattle. This people, which for too long has endured the abuses of a hateful and tyrannical power, is rediscovering that it has a soul. It is understanding that it is not willing to exchange its freedom for homogenization and cancellation of its identity. It is beginning to understand that the value of familial and social ties, of the bonds of faith and culture that unite honest people. The Great Reset is destined to fail because those who planned it do not understand that there are still people ready to take to the streets to defend their rights, to protect their loved ones, to give a future to their children and grandchildren. The leveling inhumanity of the globalist project will shatter miserably in the face of the firm and courageous opposition of the children of light. The enemy has Satan on its side, he who only knows how to hate. But on our side, we have the Lord Almighty, the God of armies arrayed for battle, and the most holy Virgin, who will crush the head of the ancient serpent. If God is for us, who can be against us? Mr. President, you are well aware that in this crucial hour, the United States of America is considered the defending wall against which the war declared by the advocates of globalism will be unleashed. Place your trust in the Lord, strengthened by the words of the Apostle Paul. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. To be an instrument of divine providence is a great responsibility, for which you will certainly receive all the graces of state that you need, since they are being fervently implored for you by the many people who support you with their prayers. With this heavenly hope and the assurance of many prayer for you, for the First Lady, and for your collaborators, with all my heart I send you my blessings. God bless the United States of America. Carlo Maria Vaganio, Archbishop of Ulpiana, former apostolic nuncio of the United States of America. So, if you have not heard of the Jesuit oath or the Jesuit order of any of the papal bulls that I have listed in the title of this video, look it up. If you don't know what the Holy War is, look it up. The Holy War is bigger than what like if you just Google what it is, like he said, like the Archbishop said when he mentioned the battle of good and evil, how people hate that, how people hate that analogy, but that's really what it is. Like if you want to be really, really general, without going into specifics of like history and historical events, you say it's good versus evil. But if you want to be specific, it is the Roman Catholic Church and its subsidiaries against a free world, which the ancient world was administered by the Moors. So in order for the modern European Roman Catholic Church to be the power that it is today, they had to murder the administrators of the planet, or at least overthrow the administrators of the planet, excuse me, who were at the time the Moors. And of course, there's just so much history that's not revealed, and I know it because the more I do research, the more I find like there's a lot that I don't know. But from what I found, a lot of what they say is a lie. But a lot of what they say have some type of, historical accuracy to it. Like, they'll say the Holy War is, I'll give you an example. When you look up Constantinople or Istanbul or modern day Turkey, they call those battles the Holy War, and trying to get Holy Land. Now, most people think it's some type of Bible thing where it's hominis dominus and, good versus evil and, and that's it. But they really don't understand what it is. It's human beings fighting for administrative control over land, resources, and commerce. Because once you have control over land, resources, and commerce, you control people. You control the destiny of nations. You control all of that. So evil people or people that have bad intentions want that type of administrative capacity for negative reasons, to control people, to keep people within a certain social status, to have slave labor via the prison industrial complex, for things like that. Good people uh, rate or deserve administrative control for positive intentions, for things like, you know, claiming eminent domain over land to give it back to the people for a dollar, for abandoned properties that all these major corporations own that they don't need, things like that. So remember when Noble Drew Ali said, just this is just I'm being very very general. uh, I'm being general and specific. It's just you have to fill in the context for yourself because I can't go over everything. It would be impossible for me to go over everything. You literally have to read a lot of books. Anyway, when Noble Drew Ali said, "Moors, you fed the world. Be prepared to do it again," he was talking about when we were the quote unquote good guys or the people that were in charge for, with positive intentions, where we brought, if you look at Sicily and Italy, well, before there was a Sicily or Italy, there were just Europeans there struggling. They didn't know how to farm and bathe and all that stuff. And then when you look up something called the Emirate or the Emir or the Caliphate of Sicily, you'll see we brought oranges, we brought fruits, we brought vegetables, we brought bathing, we brought how to shower, how to run government. We brought all of these things to those people to help them. So that's us feeding the world. We're giving them knowledge. We're literally giving them food to help them to keep them alive. Right? That's what our ancestors did. The Holy War was, okay, we're gonna let the Moors teach us this stuff, then we're gonna take it, organize, fight against them, and take the power that they have and do evil stuff with it. Basically, and the Pope has been, for the most part, the the face of that, with, of course, things like the deep state and all these hidden characters that we don't really see. They're like the moving pieces of that chessboard. So the Pope is the chess player, and all these other people are the pieces of the Pope's chessboard. That's why this archbishop was talking about the what do they call the magic circle. I think that's what he referred to it as. Yeah, the magic circle. Whereas, all of us have seen. If go to Netflix, look up the Borgias, look up the Medici family, look up the Spanish princess, look at all these shows on Netflix, and they show you that the Pope, everyone wanted to be crowned the most Christian majesty by the Pope. The Pope would have, like as an example, Pope Rodrigo Borgia or Alexander the 6th, right? He married his relatives into different European families to have an interest or claim or a manipulative force in those families to basically align with his agenda. So don't think that just because, oh, this is an old TV show, that the Pope right now isn't doing the same thing. Because if you look at any Pope, any one of them, literally any one of them, they all have done something evil in the name of God or in the name of religion or in the name of positivity. They all do it, And the main thing from the Borgias on Netflix was he was trying to create Italy because at the time, 1493, there was no such thing as Italy. He was trying to unite, all of the provinces and kingdoms under the papacy, which the antagonizer to his papacy ended up succeeding in that after the Borgia Pope died. So it's interesting because when I was watching the show, you know, I was enticed by it, right? I'm like, oh, I want this guy to depose the Borgia Pope, even though the Borgia Pope is, you know, putting everything in order and stuff like that. But then when you do the research on it, the next Pope warred against the Moors. You know, even though the Borgia Pope authorized the Intercatera Divina of America, the conquest of. Oh, even that story's. I'm not even going to talk about that. What? Let me talk about it. The way they promote it was as if the Pope had you know this mighty army to just go to America and capture a bunch of Indians and do whatever hominis dominus. Right? That's not the case. The truth is Moors were capturing Europeans, sending them to the Americas and everywhere else as slaves, as in Slavics, right? Slavs, as in indentured servants. And different European crowns would treat with the Sultan of Morocco to have, you know, to free their subjects in Morocco and to have free trade with the Morocco, which ended up resulting in the first free colony in America. But before that period, they were fighting. When I say they, I mean the Moors and the Europeans were fighting. So that is also the Holy War. Don't just think that the Holy War is Istanbul and Constantinople and Jerusalem and that's it. No, the Holy War is the entire planet. The entire planet. The entire planet. Um, and they kind of not kind of they rewrite history in the movies and in the books to constantly give them the the hominis dominus, the position of master of the house in your brain. So in your brain, you think, okay, the Pope just had the authority to uh, uh, issue a bulla on the Crusades and the Inquisition, and no one was able to stop them. And they don't show you the battles that they had with the Moors. They don't show you that part. They don't show you that part. You know, they briefly showed in the Borgias of the Europeans blowing up Turkish ships. But even Turks aren't Turks. Turks are Moors. And Turks are Asian Moors, African Moors, American Moors, and European Moors. So don't get it. When they say Turk, they're not talking about one group of people. They're talking about a mixed. It's so beautiful. Just thinking about the type of power we had, it's beautiful. Because when you look at Turk and you see that it's derived from what we now know as the Chinese people, well, the word Turk just means strong. I shouldn't necessarily say it's derived from the Chinese people, but it just means strong. But when you look at the Chinese people, the Go Turks people, and how they have ancient, you know, drawings of them with fezzes on, you start to realize, oh my God, the silk trade, and we did all of that. All of it. We controlled all of that. Literally all of it. That's how spices were able to come from Asia, you know, to the Mauryan Empire, to the kingdoms of Urk and Carthage and Tunis and Tripoli and Morocco and Cordova, and then to the Americas. And then from the Americas all the way to what we call Africa today and Europe today and Asia today. Like there was constant back and forth trade. And it's evident in it's evident in the history. It's so evident in the history. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It really is. And if you do like a comparative analysis to certain books and certain movies, and then you kind of lay it all out, you can literally see the Moorish. You can see it. You can see the Moorish Empire, and then you can see, you know, fragments of how it started to collapse, and how the Europeans were able to get more and more control, and a lot of it was just based on deception, and that's it. You know, and of course they were fighting, but um, a lot of it is deception. And to read this letter, it just confirms so much. It confirms so much of it, even with, you know, the coronavirus. The whole thing is deception. And you don't have to believe me. I don't really care if you believe me. There's gonna be people in the comments saying stupid stuff. Excuse me. But you can literally Google search United States Google patent on coronavirus. You'll see where they've manipulated the coronavirus in chickens. And then right before the coronavirus, what did they have? They had the KFC versus the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich competition, and they had a bunch of people eating it. And then you see that the P Bright, or whatever the institute is, the P Bright or Bright, whatever it's called, institute had the patent for coronavirus since 2014. And you'll see that Bill Gates funds the P Bright Institute that now currently owns the coronavirus patent all the way up into 2035, I think it is. Yeah, P.I. Pure Bright or Per Bright, whatever it is. Someone just put it in the comments. You'll see that they're funded by Bill Gates. So if you think about it, Bill Gates had it, they had the patent since 2014. 2014? 2014? That's when I got out of the military. That's 6 years ago. And we're just, and the public is just now finding out about coronavirus. But of course, it's not Pilbright. It's Pirbright. Um, then when you cross reference that with the Jesuit oath, you can just see that Bill Gates is a Jesuit. And I've heard people say that his father was a eugenist and stuff like that, but it's just sometimes when people tell me stuff, it doesn't really click because they're not giving me like the historical context to it. And it's like, okay, I get what you're saying, but like add more to that so I know what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I get it. Bill Gates' father is a eugenist, and they do human experiments and all that kind of stuff. But add things like the Jesuit oath, where they take oaths, extreme oaths, to poison people with vaccinations and murder our people and do things like that. Like, show me that. You know what I mean? Proof. Show me. I need proof. I need to see it. That's just me though. But so think about all that I just said. Right? I'm gonna give you a little bit. I'm gonna watch the clock. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. Think about everything I just said. Think about how I just said Bill Gates is a Jesuit. Think about how I said the Roman Catholic Church has been doing this for centuries. Right? Think about all of that. Now think about us. Think about what the fuck we've been doing. And I apologize. My language is terrible. Think about what we've been doing as a people. Think about it. Compared to what they're doing. This has absolutely nothing to do with them not liking us. This has everything to do with world domination. That's it. And let me break it down. Look, it's like, let's say we're the ant colony and they're the termite colony, right? We both have to, get food, right? Ants gather, they're always out and about looking for food and water, right? And guess who's doing the same thing? The termite colony. So now if the ants are like, okay, in order to survive, we have to attack this termite colony. Is that wrong? No. Now, if the termites say, in order to survive, we have to attack this ant colony, is that wrong? No. If it's based on survival, right? But if we're dealing with a planet of abundance, it becomes wrong. Because nobody has to attack anybody for survival here. Just because, due to the colonization and all this crap that they're imposing against us, that people have generalized as the new world order without, without like historical context. It just seems like, okay, New World Order, okay, whatever. But this is like a real thing. Like, they planned to stack people on buildings to make it seem like there's not enough space. But then, if you just, as an example, when I was traveling through Pennsylvania to Chicago, there's nothing but land. Land everywhere. Just land. Just land. Just open land. And it's like that in every state. It's just land everywhere. It's everywhere. 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 Even under the ocean. It's everywhere. So they do things like that, force people into the projects, even in the medium to lower income homes, the fact that they're so close, that's all an illusion. All of that is an illusion of scarcity. Oh my God, it's so scarce out here. Now that we have the illusion of scarcity, now it's survival of the fittest. Now it's I have to have before you have, and all that kind of crap, and the situation that we're in right now, people being selfish and people, all that crap. That's part of the New World Order agenda to keep us disorganized amongst ourselves, so we don't see them as the threat. And the them is, and do not think for one, if you think for 1 second that when I say them, I'm talking about Europeans, you are stupid. You are absolutely dumb. Because them is anybody who wants to oppress anybody else. That's who them are. That's who they are. That's where the archbishop was talking about, the good versus evil and the children of the light. The children of the light are the good guys. The children of the light are the people that are saying, hey, as an example, there's 14 abandoned and vacant multi-family houses on Broad Street in Providence, boarded up. There's something called adverse possession, where you don't have to pay for those houses to own them. You can just move in. So now, the people that are in the projects and hate their life in the projects can now own a home. And what does that do? That changes their quality of life. That changes their entire perspective on life. That's challenging the New World Order. Something that's so small, so big. People saying, hey, bear arms to protect yourself. That's fighting against the New World Order. That's fighting against the Pope's domination of the planet. Not just the Pope. He's just the face. People need to see a face of evil to understand what's going on. Because when you say things like deep state, you can't identify persons. You can't identify the human beings unless they're exposed. And, when this archbishop mentioned Joe Biden and how he's a puppet, that's exposing him. So now, and anyone that supports him is either part of the deep state or being controlled by the deep state based on, this letter, as an example. So when you say deep state, don't just think Joe Biden, think anyone that's pushing him. And then whenever they get the rappers to get involved and say, oh, this person, they're being manipulated by the deep state. That's the magic circle that they're talking about. And then think about all of that, all these moves that they're making, all these influencers that they're associating with, all these people that they're controlling. And now think about us. Let's look at us. You know how many Moors have done videos on me just to say something bad about me? Last time I checked, I'm struggling too. I'm not part of no deep state, New World Order stuff. I don't benefit from that stuff. So why are you mad at me and not them? When I'm the one saying, hey, let's defend ourselves against them. But you're going to be mad at me. When look, bro, look. There's a whole open letter for the world to see that an apostle of the Roman Catholic Church wrote to the president of the United States of America, showing you that there's no separation of church and state, regarding the election and how the pandemic is fake. It's It just boggles my mind how things like this exist, but everyone's buying a PS5, or everyone's talking about, I got a Christian Dior or whatever, and you don't, and everyone's talking about, I don't know, the weather, and everyone's talking about the sports game, and everyone's talking about what Cardi B said on the whatever, and it's like we deserve to die. Based based on how we act, we deserve to die. We deserve it. That's like saying, all right, if we're walking on a mountain and there's a cliff and we're not looking around and we just keep walking straight and we fall off the cliff, did we deserve it? Yes. I mean, what? Like, I don't know, man. I do not have all the answers. I don't. I absolutely don't. I do not. It's impossible. I cannot. It's impossible. It's impossible for one human being to have all the answers. It's impossible for one human being to have all the responsibility. It's impossible for one human being to have all the blame. It's impossible for one human being to have all the credit. It's impossible. All I'm trying to say is wake up. Wake up. Wake up. That's it. That's it. That's it. Wake up. And then focus on something. Don't just wake up and then dump all this information into your brain to where you can't even sort out what's real and what's not and what's important and what's not, and you're just blinded by the light. Don't blind yourself. Don't wake up to the point that you're blind. Wake up to the point where you can function properly still and do something. As far as, if you wake up and you realize all these problems are going on, but you can't handle all those problems because it's just you, great. Do something like, okay, let me do charity. Let me buy canned food and give it out once in a while. Because you can't take on all the problems. Because if you start thinking about all the problems, you're gonna realize, well, I can't do anything about it. So then you're not gonna do anything about it, about anything. But guess what we did? We did a few community giveaways, and it feels good. In a world full of this shit is going to hell, it feels good to just give somebody food. And some people they're a little sneaking and geeking, and they're taking extra socks that, we've seen you take 2 socks. You don't need all those socks. Other people are here too, but just disregard that. Just realize, okay, at least they got the socks. Simple stuff. It's simple stuff. And then once we're able to do that, then more people will help with that, right? Then you'll say, okay. Now, some people don't need it. Some people don't need the extra socks. They're just sneaking and geeking, and that's fine, right? Because we're not here for them. We're here for the people that need it. And of course, once you start doing good stuff, some people that just want to take, they'll show up. But that's fine. We don't say, hey, you don't need all those socks. We just, all right, I'm gonna let it slide. Don't worry about it. We're just gonna say, hey, please just take one and then go back in line and come back. There, Anyway, if we can just take on a little bit, what did Bob Marley say? If you're the big tree, we are the small axe, and we will cut you down. So if everybody does a little bit, we can move mountains like the Bible says. We can move a mountain. You can literally move a mountain. If a bunch of people had pickaxes, you can move that mountain. If a bunch of people had TNT, you can move that mountain. If a bunch of people had tanks, you can move that mountain. So don't think it's impossible. This is so possible. And it can start with a mayor. It can start with a chief of police. It can start with a city councilman. It can start with that archbishop. It can start with Donald Trump. It can start with anybody who stands for any type of goodness in this world. Anyone, anybody, anyone. That's how this planet works. Anyone can do good. Literally anybody. No one's born evil. No one's born good. They're all choices that we make. And those choices that we make have an effect on us and have had an effect on us in previous lifetimes, which is why some of us have, more negative karmic debt than positive karmic debt. Which in the reoccurring lifetimes, that grants them a higher social status within the spiritual hierarchy, which is why they talk about ranks on ranks on ranks in the Bible. But it's actually a real thing. It's not the imaginary hominis dominus holy moly macaroni dogma crap that they're promoting. It's real. And a lot of the high ranking officials and what we can perceive as God's army aren't even seen. There are people, if you think I'm great, imagine the people that are doing way more than I am who you don't even know about. That's how this works. You don't believe me? Okay. Get yourself, I don't have it in here. It's downstairs in my library. Get yourself the Holy Quran by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. And look up the story of Moses, right? Because everyone said, oh, Moses is one of the greatest prophets. What? He's so great. He's one of the hominis dominus best. He's one of the best. Oh, he's one of the best. He's one of the best. Did you know that Moses was taught by another prophet? So that means whilst there was a prophet of God, there was also another prophet of God that taught that prophet. So you're going to tell me that there's only one? You think there's only one person that's the best at any given time? That's not how this planet works. Hello? Now, the degrees of, just let's look at a hospital, right? One cardiologist is going to know more than another. So the person that knows more becomes the what? The head doctor of cardiology. That's ranks on ranks. Is that bad? Absolutely not. Can it be bad? It depends. If that person is corruptible, so now they're whatever type, I don't know what type of corruption happens in the medical field. So just imagine whatever type of corruption. If that person's corruptible, then that can potentially be bad. But if there's a better person or a more qualified person, or maybe even a less qualified person, but they have better intentions, that person deserves to be at the top. Not at the top as in better than everyone else, but at the top as in, okay, this person's going to be the ruler. What is a ruler for? A ruler is for measurement. What are you measuring? You're measuring the quality or the morality of that person to yours. To say, okay, I want to emulate that person's morality. That's what a ruler's for. A ruler's for your straight lines, the straight and narrow path. But they have you thinking a ruler is power and hominis dominus, and that's not what a ruler is. It says in the Bible, the greatest among you will be your servants. You know what a ruler is? A ruler is a servant. A ruler serves the people. Why? Because like Marcus Garvey said, all government is supposed to be. That's what he should have said. Well, who am I to say what he should have said? But anyway, I think, in my own opinion, that it should have said this. All government is, or all government should be, is a reflection of the will of the people. Because once you state, without context, that government is the will of the people, then you're no longer separating positive government or jurisprudence or positive law from negative government or negative law, or the good versus the evil. You get it? This stuff is not hard. It's really not. It's really not hard. It's really not hard. It's not. At least it's not hard to comprehend, or not hard to, for all you woke people, understand and overstand and sideways stand and leftward stand and outer stand and imploding stand and upside down stand and upside up stand and topside down stand, all the quantum entanglement stands you want to say to seem super intelligent. It's not complicated. It's just very detailed. And with all the details, it can be perplexing. But perplexing and confusion are two different things. right? Now, don't think for a second that me, as a man, right, as a human that has flaws, that I am perfect. I'm in pajamas right now because I always want to show the people that I'm freaking normal. I have flaws. I'm not perfect. Why am I doing that? Because all these people online, not all of them obviously, but there's a lot of people online that want to be somebody, that are acting hominis dominus. They're acting perfect. They're acting like they don't have flaws, and they're providing this fake image of what good is supposed to be, or what intelligence is supposed to be, or what being woke is supposed to be, or what being conscious is supposed to be, and they're providing a false hope or false reality which doesn't help people. So I'm showing you my beard's messed up. I'm showing you I have a little bit of anxiety, so I scratch this part of my beard a lot, so there's a little bit of hair missing. But guess what? I'm still pushing forward, which I hope you can see that and say, okay, this person is pushing through their anxiety. I can do the same thing. I share stories like I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes in the Marines, and I quit, to show you that you can quit too. I tell stories about me getting out the military and having a hard time mentally, and there's a real reason why 22 veterans a day murder themselves. They commit suicide. I'm telling you these things so you can inspire your fellow cousin or friend or whatever, or yourself who's a veteran going through a hard time. Look at what Jamal did. He was able to overcome this. My family can tell you it wasn't fucking good for me. It was hard. It was fucking difficult. So much pain. So much not knowing who I am. Feeling out of place in society. That's a real life experience that I had. Where, I didn't know who I was, and I thought I was fucking going crazy. But I was able to overcome that, right? Everyone can do that. Don't stop looking at these people online acting like something they're not. People are dying. People are in jail. People are losing their houses. Families are being ripped apart. People that look like you and me and Europeans are sleeping on the streets, under bridges, in tents, outside when it's freezing. And they want you to think about Christian Dior. They want you to buy PlayStation 5s. They want you to buy the new iPhone that's going to come out every 2 months. They want you to rent a Lambo. They want you to do dumb shit with your time and your energy in this real world fucking problems. I'm not saying you have to let homeless people in your house and take showers and shit like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying you can take those 20 pairs of Jordans that you have that you don't fucking wear anymore and donate to someone who needs shoes. And guess what? The less fortunate, they're gonna love it. They love it. Why? Because they need it. You don't need that shit. You have a house. You don't need it. Right? So, I try to show you the real shit because there's a bunch of idiots out here thinking that this information is for them. Stupid, it's not for you. Right? And I'm talking about Moors. I'm specifically talking about Moors right now that read that, or claim to read, the Holy Quran, that our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, the illustrious, he was actually noble. That's why he got the title, not because he named himself that. His actions, what he did for not just his people, but the world, granted him the title of noble. The book that he prepared for everybody, but specifically Moorish Americans, states that the crown isn't for you. The people, your equal. It says in the book, your equals didn't bestow the crown of royalty on your head for you. They did it because What you're supposed to do is help everybody because you have the mentality to do that. You have the resources to do that. You have the know-how to do that. You have the influence to do that. Not so you can be the guy on social media. Read this letter. Look at the problems of the world. And you want to be a social media guy or girl or whatever, or madam. What are we doing? See? The battle of good versus evil. And in that battle of good versus evil, which is an outward reflection of the world, is the inward reflection of your higher self versus your lower self. So now there's a bunch of human beings that don't know that there is a higher self and a lower self. So they're sinking to the lower self. So now there's evil out in the world. So the prophet being perfect, I don't know what to call him, told you, learn of your higher self and lower self. Learn to love instead of hating. Learn to love instead to hate. Once you do that simple but large task that is so hard and easy, it's so difficult and easy. Once you do that, you can really see what's happening. You know, and I'm not gonna lie and say this. You know, I have no hatred in my. But I hate evil stuff. I hate that it's so difficult for people to prioritize what's important in their lives. I hate that we're losing this battle. I hate being oppressed. I hate that the FBI is showing up to certain Moorish houses and it's stagnating our movement. I hate that, you know, my daughter's not going to grow up in a safe environment. I hate that. But guess what? My love for my family and my love for the Moors outweighs that hate. So it keeps me pushing forward. Hate doesn't go away. You have to choose. Choose. You either choose to love or you choose to hate. But with hatred comes a skewed vision of reality. And a lot of people, and this is, and y'all heard me say it before. When the so-called black people say we have no so-called white allies, that's from hatred. Because I can tell you right now, the guy, the man of truth, Will Turbot, although he does not agree with everything I say, and I don't agree with everything he says, we both have this line of understanding of goodness. Both of us are doing what we're doing for the sake of good. Period. So yeah, I may say something that he doesn't necessarily agree with, and he may say something, one little thing, it might be a tiny thing. He's European and I'm a Moor, that I don't agree with. And I won't say anything. Why? Because the amount of good that he's doing outweighs that little piece of nothing that I don't agree with. You get it? So I have this understanding that, okay, now that I can see love within this human being, I can see that he loves humanity. So he's doing what he's doing based on that. So what the fuck can I say against that? Oh, well, you have to say this, this, and this in order for me to associate with you and agree with what you say. No, I'm not stupid. Right? And other things, and, you know, I'm only talking about, anyway. Another thing that I've heard so-called black people say is that, you know, the so-called Spanish people aren't our friends either. Okay, first of all, most so-called Spanish people know that they're Moors. And they're going through the same similar oppression that the so-called black people are going through. So have you ever heard of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, you idiot? But no, since you have so much hate in your heart, you can't even think straight. See why the prophet said, learn to love instead of hate. I know Spanish is made up. Let's not get into that. I just told you. Well, I didn't tell you, but you know I'm speaking connotatively. You already know what I'm doing. I'm trying to relate or compel to the minds that haven't changed their vocabulary yet. See, so when I say don't be blinded by the light, don't say stuff like that. You already know I know Hispanics not real. I've written books on this. So don't be so blinded by the light that you have to say grand rising instead of good morning when the word morning is derived from morrow, which means to twinkle, which is in relation to Venus. Because you heard someone say that morning is morrow, morning, it means to mourn, which it absolutely does not mean. So now you're blinded. Oh my God, I have to say more. I have to say grand rising now instead of good morning, because if I say that, then the world's gonna end. When you've been saying good morning since you were fucking 9. See, don't be blinded. Don't be blinded where people say third eye, so now you have to spell E-Y-E instead of the letter I. Don't be blinded. I mean, you can still do that. That's fine. You can still do that. That's fine. Let's say that's fine. Do your thing. But realize how silly you can look. You know what I'm saying? Because you definitely ain't writing on no resume like that. And you definitely ain't writing no books like that. And if you are writing books like that, and of course, this is just my opinion, I feel sorry for you and the people reading it. Because the goal is to elevate the mind, not dumb it down. Because once you start doing things like that, you're dumbing it down. Once you separate the science of morphology, right, and grammar, right, and transliteration, once you start separating those sciences from your brain, and you start to just look at words however you want to, you're literally destroying the entire mission of the quote-unquote conscious community, and your purpose of waking up, which is to help raise the people in degrees. So yeah, you can say EYE, sure, but make sure you state to them that you're making them or telling them or having them spell a longer equation to reach the number 9. Because EYE equates to the letter 9. If you add the numerical values of the letters, the 3 letters, they equate to 9. Guess what also equates to 9? The letter I. So now, like back in our day, right, we had math was a little easier. Now they have this new math, right, which is way harder. So now you're teaching people the new math instead of the old math. Because you think doing that makes you super consciously woke. Because you want to feel better than someone else. Because of the world, you know, the new world order of hatred for your fellow man, being better, feeling like you're above your fellow man, and you don't even know it. Because guess what? Even if you say EYE or the letter I, you're still using your ego. Why? Because the word ego means I. But you thought ego was bad. Why? Because someone told you it was bad. Which means what? Now you're not thinking for yourself. Which means what? Now the new world order is working because you're not thinking. Which you are a divine being, the deific man. You are human. Hugh, right? Excuse me, is Egyptian. Guess who the Egyptians were? You, silly. It means to invoke, to call upon, or to pour out. Is the word Hugh is the root word of God. It's a verb. Man means to think. So human means you are the invoking mind. That's what human literally means. Literally. But they've taken the word human, they made it seem like, oh, you're just a human. To devalue the God within you, the Christ mind, to devalue God on this planet, which is you, to devalue the one consciousness that's dropped into this flesh, to devalue that to that of a monster, or someone who's in their lower self, or someone who will be controlled, or someone who doesn't realize who they are, or someone who's dead, or someone who's civiliter mortuus, or someone who is black. or someone who's evil. Thank you. Let me read some of these comments because there's a lot, and I'm just talking. The main part of this video was this letter, and you should read it, even though I just read it. But you should still read it. You should print. Hold on, let me see if my phone's gonna die. Actually, my phone's pretty green. I'm not gonna go all the way downstairs. But anyway, I have this binder. It's about this thick of information. So that's not including all the books I have. It's things like this that I just print, slip it in a clear envelope, put it in this binder. I just have it. And I can't even tell you honestly why. I think it's so I can just have it and teach people, but you know, we all know, well, I know that all of my thoughts aren't mine. They're from, you know, God or the creator or the one consciousness, or if you have any past life regression, that pure white blob of one energy. It's from that. So that, which is Allah, right? Or spirit or God, whatever you want to call it. Science, the oneness, the Big Bang, whatever you want to, I don't care what you call it. That compels me to do things like that. Or, you know, maybe it's, I don't know what it is. Anyway, I have it and I show people. So do that. Print stuff so you can show people. Because you never know when you're gonna use it. Ever. You never know. Because there's sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, good thing I printed this to show people, hey, look, I'm not making it up. It's right there. And they're like, you know what? Great information. Oh, thank you. And I go home. Anyway, yeah, print stuff and keep it, because who knows when the internet's gonna, when they will shut the internet down. And if you think for 1 second that they can't shut the internet down, you are highly mistaken. I was on the United States Essex, the USS Essex, when I was part of the 7th Fleet stationed in Okinawa, Japan, 2012 to whenever I went, around that time, 2012, 2013. And this thing called River City, and they were basically restricting internet access on the boat, on the ship that I was on. So if you don't think that they can restrict internet access, you're drugging and bugging, you're sneaking and you're geeking, and you're on some type, you're in the most delusioned parallel universe that's existing right now. You are deep within, you know, when people say sheeple, you're a sheeple. You're a sherpin. A sheep person, a sherpin. So sheeple is the plural. Sherpin is the singular that I just made up just now. Trademark. I'm joking about the trademark part. So what I was reading from is the open letter from to the President of the United States, Donald Trump, from the Archbishop. His name is Carlo, Carlo, Maria, Maria, Vigano, Vigano, Vigano. I don't know what I said earlier. He's the Archbishop of Ulpena. I'm not Italian, so I don't speak Italian. That's what I was reading from. So don't mind me while I read these comments. Yes, this document can be downloaded. I was literally on my phone and I printed it from my phone. So yes, you can download it. Not on my website. We just Google it. Just Google that Archbishop's letter to Donald Trump of October 25th, 2020. Peace, peace, peace. Someone asked, what does holy denote? The word holy is in reference to the sun. So you know how, so every language, every single one of them, every language and every word in existence is a metaphor. It's not, it has multiple meanings. So when words say literal meaning, it's an implied literal meaning, because this existence is a lower vibration of so all right, look, in the front of the in the beginning of the Quran, it talks about how we're clothed in fresh and in the flesh. And once the ether started to vibrate slower, that's how we got this physical flesh. So this physical flesh is a slower vibration of our spirit. So our spirit would be vibrating this fast to the point where you can't see it, right? So you see how my hand is kind of, you can't really see where it is. Well, you can see my thumb because it's moving slower, right? But you see how my actual fingers, you can kind of, it looks like you can see through them because they're moving too fast. So that's our spirit, right? You can't see it because it's moving too fast. It's vibrating too fast. But the flesh is vibrating slower so you can see it, right? So even you aren't you. Your physical you isn't you. It's a metaphorical expression of what your spirit actually is. So it's the same thing for words, because all words, this is why etymology is important. When you look at the word grammar is derived from greb, which means to carve, which is in reference to hieroglyphics, which the hieroglyphic language is a logographic language, which is it's an implied language. Uh, Different logos, the order of the logos, like how you know how the English language has the suffix, the root, and the prefix. That's how the Medu was, or the Mother Nature. That's how the Medu was written, whereas the image before and after would specify the context of the middle logo, that's language. That's the principle of all languages. That's how the English language is written as well. So when you see like let me see, when you see education, the suffix ation is put in the context of how the word is used. So it's not used, it's not educate, it's education. So it's a process of something. You get it? So when you see words, that's all it is. Right? So holy is in reference to the sun, which the sun is in reference to knowledge, right? Or being bright, or being intelligent, or being warm, or being content, because you're content because you have knowledge, and with the knowledge you can do things like build a house, so now you're comfortable, right? Which when you go outside and it's nice and warm, you're comfortable. So it's just degrees of stuff. Do you think it's possible for the Moors to take back control? It's up to their will, period. So it doesn't matter what I think. That's just the truth. That's why the prophets came with the message of this is what it is. It doesn't matter what they thought personally. That's just it says once your will aligns with the Allah's will, the resurrection is possible. That's just the truth. If you want if you want your wall to be painted, your will is gonna be the determining factor of that. Whether you go to Home Depot and get the paint to paint it or not. So whilst the Moors are focused on PS5s and Christian Dior and red bottoms and who's twerking better than who and other crap, their will is not focused on their own freedom. That's just a fact. I'm still looking for some questions. Let me scroll a little bit faster. Enforce the Constitution. Yep. Peace, Moors. There's a lot of Islams in here. Peace. Peace. Oh, how can you donate? Honestly, man, I'm tired of donations. Not tired of it as in I don't want it or we don't need it. I honestly prefer human beings, like-minded human beings, without their own agenda. Their only agenda should be to get the F out of this oppressive state that we're in. That's the only people I want around. If those people are around, the fiat is just gonna come because that's just how it works. You know what I mean? But if you can't make the move here and you want to donate and you can donate and you would like to donate, you could do Cash App, money sign JULISAEL. That's Cash App. Or I prefer cash if you're gonna give me cash. I prefer the Federal Reserve notes in my hand. So you can mail that too. No money orders, just cash. It's just easier. It's just easier. You can mail that to 255 Main Street, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02860, or 339 Broadway, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02860. Someone said that I have helped them beat parole. So they watched the videos and that has helped them beat parole. That's great. Someone said it's hard to love right now. People out here asking for all the hate one can give. I think it is hard to love, but I don't think it's impossible. And you know, a lot of us don't know what love is, so we also have to face that truth. Everyone has an ideal of what love is, but that doesn't mean that's what it is. Just because it's your ideal of something. I have ideals, but that doesn't mean, you know, other people agree with them, or I can force other people to agree with them. That's what makes certain things difficult. The battle of good and evil, and the people get lost in ego and shamed in programming, thus losing the spirit to thrive above the damages. I don't think ego's bad. Honestly, without ego, you would starve to death. Peace, bro. Real Mike, fake news. We love you too, bro. And oppression and tyranny and all types of any type of anything that violates anyone, it doesn't matter who they are, what they look like, anyone's rights to freedom of peace and liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the free exercise of their religion, the free exercise of their right to do business, their right to do business, their right to conduct business, their right to conduct in trade and commerce, their right to barter, their right to contract. And remember, when you look up the word business in a law dictionary, it says it has no legal definitive meaning because it means everything. Your right to just live your life without violating others. Anyone else with me? Facts. How much true knowledge do we pocket if we're looking to break the spells? So that's a very good question. I was actually reading the Holy Quran of Muhammad, and it said it was an allegory. It said only learn enough information that you can utilize. So only know enough astrology to find Mecca. Only know, enough mathematics to conduct your business. Only know enough this for that, right? So it's up to how you want to live your life. If I want to be a mechanic, I don't need to know everything about brain surgery. It's just gonna flood. It's gonna be too much. So everything, 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 and everyone has a purpose, including knowledge. So don't just ascertain knowledge. I mean, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Don't just obtain knowledge for no reason. All knowledge should be a means to an end. You cannot know everything. It's impossible. If you could know everything, there would not be 7 billion individual spirits here right now. There would be no need for hospitals. There would be no need for farms. There would be no need for mechanics. There would be no need for anything, because it would just be one person that knew everything. So think about that. Think about learning information that you can use. Like here's an example. The whole, is the earth flat or not? My personal belief doesn't matter. Why? Because if it is and if it's not, we've still been here, and that hasn't changed anything. So how about we stop being oppressed first, then we can talk about if the earth is flat or not. So there's by me saying that, I'm kind of implying that there's more important issues than whether or not the earth is flat. So when seeking your knowledge, okay, yeah, you can, I looked at some of the flat earth alleged theory. I looked at it. I was like, interesting. And then guess what I did? I kept pushing. Why? Because there's other important shit I got to worry about, like how to stop a foreclosure, because that's going to affect me more than knowing whether or not the earth is flat. And this is not against flat earth, round earth, cube earth, no earth, parallel earth. It is not against none of that shit. It's against terrible priorities. That's what it's against. So, in the quest of knowledge, take what you need and throw everything else away. If you don't need it, throw it away, or put it in a filing cabinet that you can go to later or something. How much for a copy of your master work? I have a catalog of stuff, so you can go to riseofthemoors.org and get some stuff if you want. I appreciate you, Will, over here helping, asking the questions. Yeah, thank you, Juju. We are a nonprofit organization, and we are not a 501c3 or a 501c4. If you look at the Treasury Department, they did a report on the IRS and their abuse, and they clearly specified that nonprofit civic organizations do not need to apply for tax-exempt status. Number, they don't need an EIN number, they don't need none of that stuff. The United States Treasury said that. So don't argue with me, argue with them. Call. You should connect with Asir, the Duke of Tears. I'm willing to connect with any Moors, as long as we're doing something. I'm not trying to just talk. I already have information in my head. Let's do something, like form a committee, and or a board of directors to go in a direction. That's why it's called a board of directors, because they're directing the body in a direction. I would like to be part of that, not just talk to people just because. That's up to you. That doesn't mean you're stupid. It's just, that's my opinion. My opinion is not the end all be all hominis dominus. It's just my personal opinion. Yes, I've heard of Asir the Duke of Tears. Yes. Why did he write that to Trump? My opinion is because Trump is not controlled by the deep state, and this individual actually cares about humanity. Or, it could be a whole ploy or placation where they're just revealing some truths just so karmic debt don't mess with them. Even though yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Where is the best place to get a nationality card? Okay, so I'll just answer that question as it's written. You can just go to rvbaypublications.com. But there is no best nationality card. It's just an ID. There's no best ID. You have classes to teach the knowledge. You have got the PDF of Confused by Oh, thank you. Thank you for thanking me. Rise of the Moors. Will they leave the Moors alone or forcibly vaccinate them? Okay. So, if their goal is for world conquest and the Moors are on the world, what do you think? Now, I'm not saying it like that to be sarcastic. I'm not saying it like that to be mean. I'm just saying we have to start looking at this from a realistic point of view. So someone said, "Do you know about the event happening on December 21st and more? After that, Asir Duke of Tears has 2 videos and others." So, this is what I'll say to that comment. If anybody is revealing any type of information to Moors and just revealing information without telling Moors, "Hey, this is how we can prevent that. This is the plan to prevent that," I'm not interested in anything that those people have to say. Because in any event, literally any event, a militia can prevent a lot of bad things. So if that person's revealing, okay, this is gonna happen, and they're not saying arm up to protect yourself, I don't want to hear that person. I really don't care what that person has to say, and that's anybody. I've stopped. I've actually stopped watching videos of Moors because it's like, okay, and that's like a doctor, right? Telling you, hey, you have something wrong with a brain surgeon is telling you you got something wrong with your brain, and they're just telling you. Okay, doctor, are you gonna do something about it? Are you gonna recommend surgery, or are you just gonna tell me something's messed up? That's conscious people today. They just say, hey, something's wrong. Pay for my class, and then they leave. I'm telling you, and you don't have to believe me. I don't care if you believe me. This is just the truth. If we want to feel secure, protected, safe, not oppressed, physically not oppressed, emotionally not oppressed, mentally not oppressed, spiritually not oppressed, we absolutely need a militia. So I don't really care what's happening December 21st because I have about over 1,000 rounds right there. I have a gun 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 right there. I have a bulletproof vest right there. I have a bulletproof vest right there. I have a bulletproof vest downstairs. I have another gun in that room. And I've been training individuals. So that way, if we want to protect ourselves, we can. But anyway, I digress. Wow. We all at a point. If you ain't on square, then it's bad for you. I've seen the power of nationality for myself. That's interesting. I haven't seen the power of nationality. I've seen the power of human beings who are standing united with information, but nationality didn't do anything. It's the people with the information that did the stuff. Nationality is an abstract concept. Concepts don't do anything. Humans do things. And again, that's not a slide towards you. That's just, let's try to boil things down to the solution, the truth, the reality. Because reality is real. We just have to boil it down. All right, Morris. This video is long as crap. Please review this letter. Oh, look, the guns I was talking about. See, they're online. Please review this letter. Please review Unam Sanctam. Please review Militia D. Please review Inter Caetera Divina. Please review Diversas, if I didn't say that already. Please review the Jesuit Oath. Please review, and yes, I'm pleading to you, I'm begging you, to review the Doctrine of Discovery. Just look into all that stuff. And you'll see, you know, IMF and the Federal Reserve and all this stuff is real. It's real stuff. It's affecting your everyday life, you know. Uh, oh, went all the way up. They won't honor any Moorish nationality. Only having a Moorish military is the answer. Yeah, that's the truth. All right, Morris. Peace. I love y'all. Um, I'm trying to make sure that I got everything out I wanted to get out of my brain to you. That's it. All right, peace. Die back.